What we're talking about here is scale. We're talking about scale. Yes, the only comparable event in terms of religious war that you can come up with is 800 years ago, and it is the Crusades. That is correct. It is a comparable event. And it is important that it was 800 years ago. And what is important about it is that Catholicism, which was running the Crusades, and Christianity more broadly, grew out of that. And that's what we're looking for in terms of what's happening with the Islamic State, is how will the use of this religion in this way be something that eventually, that people in that region, tens of thousands of them who are involved in this, move beyond that. How do they move beyond that? And it's worth studying how that happened in the Crusades. And oh, by the way, it's very grim because it took centuries to grow out of that. As far as the Jim Crow stuff is concerned, we're talking about scale. We're talking about numbers, and we're talking about religion. The reason people were killed by the Ku Klux Klan was the color of their skin, not their religions. The Ku Klux Klan hated Jews and hated Catholics and did not lynch Jews and Catholics. They lynched black people. They assassinated only black people. And to include that in a reference to an army, an active army that is out there in the tens of thousands and that has worldwide reach, that can assassinate cartoonists in Paris. You know, the Ku Klux Klan never assassinated a cartoonist in New York. We're talking about a scale that makes these comparisons irrelevant.
Lawrence, with all due respect, let's talk about scale. The brutality of the Atlantic slave trade all the way through Reconstruction and Jim Crow, which extended into the middle of the 20th century, killed at least 16 million Africans and African Americans. ISIS is brutal. They're horrible. The president condemned them as a death cult. But all of, the Islamic terrorists that are doing what they're doing, if I could finish.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think the distinction that maybe is being made here by critics of the speech is that as horrible as the slave trade, it wasn't being done in the name of Christianity as much as it was being done in the name of profit.
Unfortunately, that's an absolute historical inaccuracy. In fact, people were directly using their faith to justify the subjugation and annihilation of black Africans in this country. It's just simply not true. That is how people justified it. And we should not condemn Christianity for that justification, because it wasn't Jesus. It was the evil that men did in the name of Jesus. In the same way, we should not condemn Muslim Americans and Muslims around the globe for the evil being perpetrated in the name of Islam.
No one does. No one does condemn Islam.
Yes, they do.
There are people, well, look, it's not in this program now, okay? So there are some people who are saying they would like the president to declare a war on Islam. That's crazy. But what the president is involved in, and what the United States military is involved in, is a war against the Islamic State. They're doing that. And so, and I agree with you, Joshua, he did make a reference to slavery in there, which on the basis of scale is gigantic. And yes, people were always citing religious justification for what they were doing. That was always part of it. But this is a unique kind of threat that
that's
we
the thing.
have not
it's
seen.
Not unique, though. People are doing evil things in the name of religion, and that's terrible, but we should not condemn the religion itself. And let me just say, in fact, people are conflating these things. You and I may not, and Steve may not, because we know Muslim Americans and we've thought a lot about these issues, but there are a lot of folks for whom the only association that they have with Islam is the Islamic State. And so the president's saying we need to decouple
that doesn't mean that we have to absolutely be silent about the connective tissue that these people are bringing to what they're doing, from religion to what they're doing. And the president is arguing in that speech that this is a perversion of the religion, and that is a good line of argument. Let me read to you in the corrective article today in the New York Times that the White House has out there about what the president meant to say. And whenever you're in a situation with a speech where you have to do an article about what the president meant to say, that means it didn't work. It says the spokesman says, "I think what the president was trying to say, over the course of human history, there are times where extremists pervert their own religion to justify violence." Joshua, if that was the line he used word for word, there would be no controversy.
Here's why there's a corrective article in the New York Times with again, with due respect, Lawrence, the reason is that immediately when the president uttered this very basic historical analogy, folks with a vested interest in showing that he is somehow scolding America lost their minds. And their no, I'm not talking about you. I'm saying
I have never heard
not you,
an
not
Obama
you.
speech that I have criticized. In fact,
what I'm saying is Jim Gilmore and Bill Donahue.
And I'm not in the business of attacking everything President Obama said.
I agree with you. I agree.
What I'm saying. Final thought here, Joshua. In honor of Lawrence O'Donnell, we're going to give you the last word, but we got to keep this one short.
Sure. What I'm saying is that when Jim Gilmore and Bill Donahue and folks on the hard right,
they're crazy. Those are crazy people.
Yeah, and I know, but that's what got written up, and that's what's being responded to now. And so, unfortunately, we cannot have thoughtful conversations about race or religion
Bill
in this country.
Donahue's not here. He's a complete fraud. He represents no one.
Joshua Dubois in Chicago. MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell here in New York. That was a very interesting conversation. I appreciate it, both of you, and I wish we could continue it.